Hi, I'm Mayu. Thank you, everybody who is here and also who are watching me from back home or any other country. My project, h.woven, weaving hearts, hands, and humans. H stands for hearts, hands, and humans. People treat us like garbage. This is a quote from a vendor named Aisha, an African-born immigrant who sells African print fabrics and clothes in Malcolm Shaba's Harlem Market in New York. What does this quote really mean? There are many factors. The consistent discrimination of Black people and the current immigrant policies in the United States. But the biggest issue is that they are not totally humanized in this society. The reason why Aisha feels in this way is because the society doesn't validate her cultural values. Through Aisha's story, I understood that there is an unintended disconnection. What does this mean? According to the World Economic Forum in Davos, the world is fractured into small communities. Globalization is a rapid increase in cross-border economic, social, technological exchange under the conditions of capitalism. However, the community is still not connected globally. Today, I am going to talk to you about how we can alleviate this unintended disconnection by using the story of traditional textiles and overcome otherness. The African-born immigrant population has grown significantly in the United States over the past 40 years. This growth is 26 times more than in 1970. However, we only know very little about them. Before coming to New York, I worked in West Africa for several years. I lived there and made a lot of friends. And I grew my love for their traditional cultural products, especially hand-woven textiles made by local people. And through these experiences, I got interested to learn about the African-born immigrant community in the United States. To understand the situation of African-born immigrants in this city, I went to Harlem, a place that attracts the community. On my visit there, I observed many vendors selling traditional African textiles, which is the source of income among those immigrants. With my interest in the field, I focused on understanding these vendors. Through the course of 1 year, I spoke with a total of 42 people in Harlem to understand the situation. Through research, I observed that traditional craft vendors and their customers are not having meaningful conversations about the product, and the transactions are very dry. If this situation continued, customers will lose an important opportunity to learn a lesser-known culture that can cause an unintended disconnection in society. To test this assumption, I conducted an in-depth research, and I found that most of African-born immigrants sell their traditional crafts without adding any value, despite these products have interesting cultural meanings and hidden stories rooted in their tradition. They have stories to tell, but why don't they tell them? While in Harlem, I also observed the customer interaction. They are actually interested in stories, but they often don't take an initiative to ask and learn these stories. Why don't they ask? Through my conversation with them, I learned from the vendor's perspective that they don't have means to communicate the stories well. and they assume that customers are not interested in the stories about the product. And from the customer side, they feel that there are no interesting stories, so they don't ask. And sometimes they feel reluctant to ask vendors, even if they want to know about it. So, because of no interaction between customers and vendors, there is an unintended disconnection. And this unintended disconnection is negatively contributing to the underrepresentation of African culture in the society. My project challenges this status quo. When I spoke to one of the users, Mokhtar, he expressed the interest of having meaningful communication with customers. Based on the conversation with Mokhtar, I built a couple of tangible storytelling tools that facilitates vendors to have meaningful conversation with customers about their culture. I believe that such tools are the starting point to alleviate an unintended disconnection in society. My users are people like Mokhtar and them, and their customers who are creators and designers interested in African textiles. So, I co-designed storytelling tools with Mokhtar by ideating and discussing what types of tools are appropriate for him and in his space. To understand and challenge customers' behavior at the moment of the purchase, I did a bunch of prototypes inside and outside of my user space, as you can see here. And I learned that customers' interest on stories depends on the product they are looking for. A customer looking for African traditional textiles is more interested in learning about cultural stories than a customer looking for African traditional crafts. And the biggest learning was when the tools required extra action for vendor or customer, they do not interact. So I went back to the shop space to understand customer and vendor's journey and see what could be the point of intervention in the journey. As you can observe through the journey of both customer and vendor in the shop, the point of intersection between the journeys is packaging. And at the moment of the packaging, a customer waits while a vendor is preparing to hand the textile to her or him. Based on the user journey, I discussed with the vendor and created this storytelling package so that while the vendor is cutting textiles, a customer can take a look at it and learn about cultural stories. I user tested this storytelling package around Brooklyn Museum and Starbucks. And I met this lady who said, "This package inspires me to share my own story, an Afro-Haitian one, and history of my own." And I realized how successfully this prototype created a strong interest in interaction from a potential customer. And I also tried this one with another vendor. This tool is called the storytelling tag, designed for a vendor designer from Senegal selling hand-woven traditional textiles in Malcolm Shaba's Harlem market. His name is Dam, and he's passionate about telling indigenous stories. The booth in this marketplace is really small, so his space is tightly packed, and there's no space to put anything. There's not even enough space to stand. So I tried to come up with a tool that fits his needs of storytelling in a cramped space. This is how this tool looked like while in the space. And I successfully got customers to interact with this tool. And my user Dan loved it and reported to me that he had a bunch of meaningful conversations with his customers, and He even said this increased the sales within 2 weeks. My intervention is scalable because the artisan sector is the second largest employer in the developing world after agriculture. It is worth over 32 billion every year. And every vendor and creator of traditional products who are not currently telling stories can benefit from the tool. And there are thousands of artisans making traditional products in local communities. It means there are a lot of stories to be told. So I'm going to seek out more vendors and more businesses who are eager to tell hidden stories to scale up. In terms of next steps, it will be amazing to develop an app that creates these storytelling tags easily. When this app is created and launched, my current users who are African-born immigrant vendors will be able to use this app to take pictures or use local photos, type the stories directly that they want to tell. And this app will automatically create this kind of tag that can be exported to a JPEG, and then they will be able to print out these by themselves to create their own tags. For now, I secured the collaboration with an Airbnb African culture tour guide in Harlem, led by Bomi Davis. She told me she would love to use my storytelling package in her tour. When you don't know the culture of the people, you can't respect those people. When you know, you can respect them. I expect my project will get more people to respect lesser known or underrepresented cultures. And I expect that there will be less unintended disconnection in the society. And in the near future, I would love to hear Aisha saying, people respect us as Malian by weaving hearts, hands, and humans. Thank you.